Hey, it's Plumber Tom. Thank you for watching my videos. I wanted to let you know really quickly about some awesome resources that I have for you as you're trying to learn. I have free practice tests that you can take if you're preparing for a state test. I have preparation courses that you can take that will guide you through that process if you're getting ready for a test. I have other courses that can help you in learning the plumbing trade. So make sure to check out those resources. You can find a link in the comments below. When you participate in those courses, you're helping me to be able to create more content. So I really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching. International Plumbing Code, Chapter 2 on definitions. Now this is a very useful chapter and I'll tell you why. When you are learning plumbing, you soon find out, especially when you're brand new in the trade, that they're speaking another language. There are so many terms and acronyms and references, things that people say that you're like, what are you talking about? And in order to understand the International Plumbing Code, you kind of have to speak the language. You need to know what a lot of these terms mean. So, right up front in this book, they have provided for us a list of terms. This is like a dictionary or a glossary, only they put it right up front. And I think there's something to that. I think it's because they want you to understand those words before you go on and read the rest of the code book. There's some emphasis in the fact that it's up front. But this has a list of many different plumbing terms that we use with specific definitions that help us to understand what the code means. Now, as you go through the code, you will find in sections that there are words which are italicized. And those italicized words are the same words that we find in Chapter 2. They are the definition terms. So as you're going along through the code book, I strongly encourage you to go back to Chapter 2 if you find an italicized word that you do not understand. By doing that, you will better learn the plumbing language. What does this term mean? When you go look it up and say, oh, okay, now that makes more sense in this section of the code. But in this presentation, what we're going to do is just take a few of the terms that are either in some way related or comparable to each other, or that are easily confused. There are many more terms than we will cover in this section, and I'm not going through all of them, I promise. But we will focus on some that might be helpful to you as you begin to understand, with also my encouragement to you that your understanding of the plumbing code is your responsibility. And if you want to understand it well, then you will need to make sure you understand what these terms mean. What I'm saying is, it's worth your time to go through this whole chapter, word by word, read each term, and make sure you understand it. That will greatly add to your understanding as we continue on through our study of the International Plumbing Code. So let's get into it. So here we go, plumbing definitions from Chapter 2. Let's start with these ones. Access, accessible, and ready access. You can see why it's a good idea to discuss these, because that all kind of looks like the same thing to me. But in order to understand the difference, let me start with the third one here, and I'm actually going to read directly from the code. We're looking for ready access. Okay, ready access. That which enables a fixture, appliance, or equipment to be directly reached without requiring the removal or movement of any panel, door, or similar obstruction, and without the use of a portable ladder, step stool, or similar device. So, ready access means that I can walk right up to whatever I need to work on and I can access that. I don't need a ladder, I'm not opening a panel, it's just there. Okay, keeping that in mind, let's go back to access. Access means that which enables a fixture, appliance, or equipment to be reached by ready access, and now we know what that means, or by means of that first requires the removal or movement of a panel, door, or similar obstruction. So access means I can get to, say, a valve or a pipe or something by opening a panel or removing a ceiling tile or something like that. I can get to it, but it might take a little more effort. Now what about accessible? In the definitions it just says go look at the International Building Code. So let me explain that accessible means if you're in a building, it is something that you can come to by moving through the building. So say a drinking fountain, for example, would be accessible if I can leave the room that I'm in, walk down the hall, and it's right there in the hall. That means it's accessible. I can get to it through the building. So that's the difference between accessible, and ready access. Next we have air break and air gap. Both of these are referring to an indirect waste situation. That means that there are drains that are flowing but not directly connected pipe to pipe. Here we have a condensate drain. It comes in and drips into another drain receptacle with a trap. So this is an indirect waste. Now the air break is a piping arrangement in which the drain comes from the fixture or appliance or whatever indirectly to another fixture at a point below the flood level rim and above the trap seal. So the trap seal is down below there. The flood level rim in this illustration is the top of that floor drain. If this were an air break, the pipe would go down below the top of the floor drain, but it's still going to be above the trap. Let me give an example. A washing machine or a washer box. The drain for a washer in a washer box is a stand pipe over a trap. And when you hook up a drain from a washing machine, you just take that hose and stuff it down in the pipe. That is an air break. The two are not directly connected together. They're not sealed or glued or hose clamped together, but the hose goes down below the flood level rim or the top of that drain pipe. Now let's compare that with air gap. An air gap is the unobstructed vertical distance through the free atmosphere between the outlet of the waste pipe and the flood level rim of the receptacle into which the waste is discharging. Here's the illustration. You can see it. The air gap leaves a physical open air distance between the pipes. So an example of where I would use an air gap, if I have a food preparation sink in a commercial kitchen, and I don't want any of the drain scum or bacteria getting up into my sink, then I would run this through an indirect waste air gap. That way, if the floor drain ever backed up, it would never be able to push waste up into my food preparation sink. Bring! It was getting dark in here, so I had to turn on the lights. Let's look at the next two here. We have bathroom group and branch interval. These are not too much interrelated, but they both start with B, so we've got them together here. A bathroom group is, as you would imagine, a lavatory or sink, a toilet, and a tub or shower. This also may include a bidet or an emergency floor drain, and all of these fixtures need to be grouped together closely and on the same floor level in order to be classified as a bathroom group. Now we use that classification in water pipe sizing and drain pipe sizing and things like that. So it's important to understand when we hear the term bathroom group, this is what we're referring to. The next one we have is branch interval. And a branch interval is a vertical stack. You can see in the illustration here, the pipe runs up and there are branches that come off of that horizontally. And a branch interval is a specific vertical distance of 8 feet. So you can see here we've got the first floor and the second floor, and generally that's about 8 to 10 feet, but for our illustration we'll call that one branch interval, and any pipes that are coming off horizontally from that stack within that 8 feet are all going to fit together in that branch interval. Now we use branch intervals later when it comes to sizing and venting and things like that. So that's why it's important to understand if you have a tall vertical stack with lots of pipes coming into it, the branch interval is how we separate out sections of that stack. Next we have the building drain and the building sewer. These two are easily confused. They kind of sound like the same thing, but they are specific pipes and they are different. So the building drain, if you read the definition, is the horizontal pipe at the bottom of the system below the building on the inside. So all the pipes from the inside, the drain pipes, come to this one pipe and then it goes out the building. It extends 30 inches past the building and that pipe is considered the drain pipe. At that point, code requires that you have a clean out, and it connects to the building sewer. The building sewer then runs from the building drain to the public sewer. So this is outside the building, but it's still the main sewer pipe. So that's the difference between a building drain and a building sewer. The sewer is outside, the building drain is inside, but it's basically the same pipe conveying all the waste from the building to the public sewer. Let's have a look at contamination versus pollution. Once again, these sound pretty much like the same if you're just speaking normal English language, but they have a very important difference here in plumbing, particularly when we're looking at backflow prevention. So let's examine this. Contamination means an impairment of the quality of the potable water that creates an actual hazard to the public health through poisoning or the spread of disease by sewage, industrial wastes, industrial fluids, or wastes. So basically, contamination means this can kill you. It's something that comes into the water that you would drink that would kill you. On the other hand, pollution is an impairment of the quality of the potable water to a degree that does not create a hazard to public health, but that does adversely and unreasonably affect the aesthetic qualities of such potable water for domestic use. Let me translate. It's safe to drink, but it's not what you really want to drink because maybe it has a funny taste or a funny color or a stinky smell. That's pollution. And we can work towards getting rid of both contamination and pollution, but we worry a lot more about contamination, and we have much stricter regulations and other devices to make sure that we avoid contamination compared to pollution, where it's like, well, it's not going to kill you, so we're not going to worry as much. Okay, what is the difference between hot water and tempered water? Well, it's just the degree of heat. So hot water is 110 degrees or hotter, and it could get really hot beyond 110 degrees. And tempered water is between 85 degrees Fahrenheit and 110 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's more like warm water. Once you get above 100, it feels hot, but it's safer for the public, which is why tempered water is often required in public fixtures or in certain spaces where maybe children are so they don't get burned, whereas hot water may be allowed in other places. And that's why it's important to understand the difference. And the magic number there is 110 degrees. More than that is hot. Less than that, down to 85, is tempered. What is the difference between non-potable water and potable water? Non-potable water is water not safe for drinking, personal, or culinary utilization. Secondary water that we use on sprinkler systems, that's not safe to drink. It has all kinds of microbials that might kill you. So it's non-potable water. Potable water, on the other hand, is water free from impurities present in amounts sufficient to cause disease or harmful physiological effects and conforming to the bacteriological and chemical quality requirements of the Public Health Service drinking water standards or regulations of the Public Health Authority having jurisdiction. What that means is that it's clean enough. It might have little tiny amounts of something or other in it, but it's clean enough to be safe for our use, for drinking and for other uses. It's not going to hurt us. Let's talk about drain pipes for a minute. It is important to understand the difference between a waste pipe and a soil pipe. A waste pipe, it says, is a pipe that conveys only waste. Well, what is waste? The waste is a discharge from any fixture, appliance, area, or appurtenance that does not contain fecal matter. A soil pipe, on the other hand, is a pipe that conveys sewage containing fecal matter to the building drain or building sewer. So the key difference between a waste pipe and a soil pipe is that soil pipe has fecal matter and a waste pipe does not have fecal matter in it. So it's just sink drains. Let's talk about water lines for a minute. What is the difference between a water main, a water service, and a water distribution pipe? Well, the water main is the one that's out in the street. It's the city's pipe. It's the main one that gives us all the water. The water service pipe is the pipe that connects from the city and brings it into the building. A lot of times we call it the main water line into the building, and that might be okay when you're on the job and talking to each other as long as you know what you're saying. But when it comes to code definitions, that's not the water main, that's the water service pipe. It brings water into the building. And the water distribution pipes are the pipes above that would branch off and take the water from the water service pipe to all the fixtures throughout the building. Here are two definitions that are easily confused: the stack vent and the vent stack. Which is which, and what's the difference? Well, in order to get these definitions right, what you need to do is take the first word and give that the emphasis. A stack vent. First of all, it is a stack. That means it is a pipe that conveys waste, and it is vertical. So it's the drain, and on top of it, there is a vent that goes out the roof. That is the stack's vent. So we call it stack vent. On the other hand, you may have a vent stack. Focusing on the first word, it is a vent. It never has any waste flowing down in it. Its whole purpose is to convey air to the drainage system, but it is a big pipe and it is a stack. It runs vertically all the way out the roof. And the way this works is when a building gets to being 5 branch intervals or more, you remember we talked about a branch interval is 8 feet of vertical stack space with drains coming into it. When you stack 5 of those on top of each other or more, then we need to create a vent stack. That means a separate pipe that runs next to the stack, and we bring all of the vents from the drains over to the vent stack so that they can connect to where it goes out the roof. So hopefully that helps you understand the difference, stack vent and a vent stack. What is the difference between a horizontal pipe and a vertical pipe? It's basically the degree. Obviously horizontal is going to mean flat, but at what point, if I'm using a 45 or a 22, at what point are we going vertical? Well, the definition on vertical says that it's anything down to a 45-degree angle. So if I have an elbow that's a 45 and it's coming off, at that angle, it is still considered a vertical pipe until it comes below 45 degrees. And that completes our brief presentation of some of the definition terms in International Plumbing Code Chapter 2. There are many more terms than I just explained, and I highly encourage you to take the time to read through and make sure that you understand these terms, and as you do that, you will have a much greater understanding of the rest of the International Plumbing Code. We'll see you next time, guys.